Welcome to the React Show, brought to you from occupied Miwok territory, and some fire, episode 88. AI, artificial intelligence. Is it the absolute best thing since sliced bread? Is it the solution to all of your programming woes? Is it the technological progress that we have been waiting for decades? Thank you so much for joining me. So the big news, of course, over a while now in technology has been AI. And like many people, I've been trying it out and learning it, and I've actually been working on a podcast episode where we take a look at how AI works, and the biggest thing is, how can we actually effectively apply it to what we do? For example, I've been working on, like I said, an episode on AI, but specifically, how do we use it within React programming to build better programs, build programs faster, be more efficient, whatever we can do with them, trying to figure that out. And then, coming back, and I want to be able to come back to all of you all and be like, yeah, this is, given the current state of things, this is the best, method for utilizing it. And this is what you can expect, and, all that kind of stuff, right? So I've been working on that, and it's not quite finished yet, but it's going to be really good. So if you do want that type of thing, definitely subscribe and, leave a comment or whatever it takes, these days. Or you could be like me, and I don't subscribe to much, but I just sort of remember the things I like and I check them every few days. I don't care. That's fine with me. I know metrics and everything are all about subscriptions, but I don't know, whatever. I don't care. However you want. If you're interested in that, come back, check later, right? But during this process of building this episode, I keep running into things that are, I would say to call them concerning, I guess, would be an understatement. And this is not necessarily, this is not an episode today on the ethics of AI specifically or anything like that. But there's a lot of rhetoric and thinking around AI that is common to new technologies in general, and I think in a lot of very harmful ways. So what I feel like I need to discuss before I can bring you the episode on how to effectively use this new technology is the technology, I guess not the technology itself, but technology in general, and what happens when there's new technology and the effects of that. The word that people will often use with AI or any new technology that comes out is progress or advancement. The narrative that we hear is, AI is going to revolutionize such and such industry. It's going to make it so you no longer have to do XYZ manual process. AI will take care of it for you. This is progress. And, people are definitely like, oh yeah, this is going to mean a lot of people lose their jobs, and, people are going to have to learn new skills, but this is the way things go. We're marching forward. This is progress. Let's, look at Star Trek or other sci-fi things where the AI just takes care of everything for us, right? And we see that and we're like, oh yeah, okay, that's the next level. That's where we're trying to go. That would be progress once we achieve that. It's going to be painful along the way because, people's jobs might be replaced. We don't need them anymore because AI takes care of it, but it's worth it, right? It's worth it. We're making progress because the end result is these amazing AI systems that free us humans up to do whatever, we really want to do. We can do our art, and we can spend our time doing what we want to do because AI is going to take care of everything for us. And this is not even an argument specific to AI. This is the argument you will often hear for any new technological advancement. Talk about computers, cars, whatever it is. This argument always comes up. Oh, we have cars now. You don't have to spend 3 days, taking a horse and buggy or a train or whatever to someplace you don't exactly want to go, and then hop on another train, and you can have your own car and just drive straight there. And this is progress. We are making progress. We have improved the world. It's just not progress. It is something. It is, and it's not. Is it even advancement? I posit that technological changes, they are changes. They are not inherently progress. And in fact, it's a lot worse than that, because I know that most people that listen to this podcast live in so-called Western economies, Western societies that are all hyper-capitalist. And what you have with new technologies mixed with capitalism is the further accumulation of capital, more profits. A great way that I think to think of it is technology can be a lever, right? And this is not, I didn't come up with this. This is very common, right? You can think of technology as a lever. That used to be maybe with agriculture. It took 10 people to farm 1 acre, doing everything by hand. And then we invent some new tools, some tractors, whatever it might be. And now one person can farm that acre. And so they're leveraging that technology. It's a lever, right? And what happens if you take a lever and apply it to a machine whose sole goal is to accumulate capital and profits and power for the people in control of that machine? This is what we've seen with technology, recent technology like computers, the internet. What this does is this concentrates capital, this concentrates wealth, this concentrates power. The people running Google and Microsoft, the leaders, essentially of this new wave of AI, and the executives and the investors in these companies, they're the ones that are going to get more profitable with AI. As a React engineer, are you going to get more profitable? Are you going to make more money? I suspect not. And, maybe you would. Maybe what's really going to happen is AI is going to improve programmer productivity so much that we don't need so many programmers. In which case, if you happen to be able to hold on to a job as a programmer, maybe you will make a little bit more money because we're concentrating that capital. The elite programmers that exist that can wield this AI power can demand a higher premium and make a little bit more money. It's not going to be a lot because you're not in control of the companies, you're not in control of the capital. So it's not impossible that some programmers are going to make more because of AI. But the reality is the people that are really going to make more money is anyone that can take the new technology and leverage it to get more capital and monopolize that capital. And so what you really have is anytime you have new technology that comes out, you have in a capitalist system like most of us live in, listen to this, maybe all of us at this point, our capitalism is sort of taking over the globe, right? Or at least its effects. And so the way that I see it is, you have a new technology, whether it's AI or anything else. Companies with capital, with power, they're going to see that new technology and go, hey, if we can monopolize that new technology, this new lever that's longer than the other levers we've had before, we are going to be ridiculously profitable. That's how this system works. If you are, say, OpenAI and you created ChatGPT and GPT-1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you're just light years ahead of everyone else, and everyone uses your AI, and AI increases the amount that each person can do by some massive factor, so every business and every individual ends up using your product, you can charge whatever the hell you want for that product, right? Like, that's the reality. You've monopolized it. And as the owners of OpenAI, and OpenAI, the fact that open in it is ridiculous at this point. It's just another company. It's not anything special, some open thing, right? It's just a company with investors, including one of the biggest ones being Microsoft. They are seeing this as, hey, let's control this lever. If we monopolize this lever and make it so nobody can compete with us, push everyone else out of the market or buy them. That's the way it goes with tech, right? We can charge whatever we want. And not only that, but we can essentially control the world. Not only do we actually control the software, but even bigger, we control the capital behind that software, behind that technology. So I've jumped ahead and said some things without backing them up. But we are going to cover it. So why do I say that AI or pretty much any technology is not inherently progress, is not advancement? And if you listen to this podcast, I'm sure you know, I love to dig into the root of things, the mechanics of things. Start with the foundation, and we work backwards from there. So when we talk about the design of a React program, I look at it as, okay, what is the ideal? Like if we were to build the perfect React program, let's imagine that. We're not restricting ourselves with a budget or any other constraints. We just build the best React program. Okay, we know what that looks like. Like once we've defined that, we can work backwards from it and be like, okay, how do we get to there? What are the most efficient ways to get there? What's the best way to get there? I do the same with humans, with society too. So to me, I am like, okay, let's look at humans. What do humans want? What is the ideal situation for humans? And I'm not going to claim that I have all the answers here. I certainly don't. But I do know some things for sure, and I think most people would agree on these things. So when I look at humans, and what I'm looking at is what makes us as humans happy? What makes us satisfied? What makes us fulfilled? What makes us feel like life is worth living? These really, really deep existential questions that, you could probably research for an entire lifetime and not fully solve it, right? Even with that being said, there are, I believe, things that we can generally agree on. And so the place that I usually start with is human interactions, deep, real, connecting friendships. When you talk to people, when I think about myself, that is one of the most fulfilling, satisfying things that makes me and anyone else happy. Like that, the amazing friendships that you have, the experiences you can have with other people, that is definitely one of the most important things when it comes to answering these, life questions, right? Another one would be autonomy, individual or collective autonomy. It's the idea that nobody wants somebody in power over them telling them what to do. This is pretty counter to how many of us exist in society, but this is also like really well known and really common. Like, you complain about your boss, you complain about the government, you complain about basically anyone that is put into a position of authority over you, making you do things you don't want to do, or you don't think are right, or you don't think is the best way to do things. So another, aspect to what I look at as, the ideal for humans is a society in which all of us have our own individual autonomy and power, and nobody has authority or power over us. This doesn't necessarily mean like a society where we all just run around doing whatever we want. This is more like, in the ideal society, all of us feel empowered to work within society and have influence over society, and most importantly, influence over our own lives, where we can make our own choices about what we want to do with our lives. This is also, I believe, central to what makes people feel happy and fulfilled and satisfied and all the other things that we want as humans. So when we're talking through the rest of the points I want to talk through in regards to technology and AI and progress, the place I'm coming from is imagining this ideal world in which humans, which me and you and everyone else, are feeling these good things. We're like, yeah, my life is great. I love living my life. I love waking up every morning. That's not always perfect. Sometimes I have conflict with my best friend and we have to resolve it, whatever. It's not perfect, but like, life just feels full and worth living. So I don't know, I'm not claiming I know exactly, how to achieve that or whatever. But I think we can all look at this and agree that there are some things we can know, especially as this whole idea interacts with technology and AI. So backing up some more, I think the other part of what we need to take a look at is what is technology, what is progress, what is advancement? And we've talked about it a bit in terms of being a lever. But I want to really dig into the idea of progress and advancement. And for the first example, I want to go back in time to before the washing machine was invented. So before then, people washed their clothes by hand. It was a very manual process, often primarily done by women, arduous, it took a long time, right? I don't know if you've ever actually tried to wash clothes by hand and do it effectively. I have attempted it quite a few times, and it's not, it's a lot easier to throw stuff in a washing machine, right? So let's say we go back in time and you are somebody that's had to manually wash clothes your whole life, and then the washing machine is invented. And people are like, wow, this is amazing. Look at the progress we're making. You no longer have to spend hours cleaning and scrubbing the clothes by hand. You can just throw it in this machine and it will do it for you. And so everyone's like proclaiming the progress that we've made. We are saving people so many hours every year. They no longer have to wash their clothes. They no longer have to do this manual labor. It's so much better. You can sit and read a newspaper. Before you would have had to spend those hours washing clothes. Now you can just sit and read a newspaper, right? You can relax. You can do your hobbies. You can spend your time doing more fulfilling things. Right? We've made progress, right? This is the whole point. We have freed up time for people. We've freed them from manual labor. We've made progress. Well, let's go back in time and look at that. Did that really happen? When we invented washing machines, does that mean that, people used to work 60 hours a week, and then they got a washing machine, and now they only have to work 50 hours a week? Is that what happened? Everybody reduced the amount they had to work by 10 hours a week? Did that really happen? Did every technological advancement that we ever had just keep reducing the amount of work that we actually have to do? Maybe for a very small portion of people, maybe you could say that's true. But when you look at us as a society as a whole, absolutely not. Like, think of all the, like, in my lifetime, which is not, there's a lot of people that have lived a lot longer than me. So even in my not super long lifetime, there's been a lot of technological advancements that, people call them advancements, right? Like smartphones, cell phones. When I was a kid, we used landlines, we typed in numbers and, call our friends, and, it was attached to the wall, right? And now we have computers in our pockets, right? Like that should have meant, as a worker, this would save me a lot of time. I have a calculator in my pocket, right? So I used to, did my dad, who was working at that time, he did a 40-hour work week. Did the advancement of a smartphone mean, now he only has to do a 30-hour work week? Or maybe he still has to do a 40-hour work week, but did he get a massive bump in his pay? Did his employer say, wow, look at this. We have better computers. We have phones in our pocket. You can travel around and do your meetings on your way to visiting a supplier. This saves us time. This saves us money. And we're going to give that back to you. So did my dad then make twice what he used to make? No. In fact, that's not the effect we had at all. Getting a washing machine, getting computers, getting smartphones, it changed the society that we live in, but it didn't mean that, now I only have to work. Like, if you look at all the technological achievements we've had in the last even 50 years, if the whole idea was that this is progress, that this frees us up to work on what we really want to work on, to do our hobbies, to hang out with our friends, to do the things that make us feel fulfilled, did these technological improvements actually do that? No, absolutely not. In fact, it's probably done the opposite for a lot of people. A lot of people, you're working multiple minimum wage jobs. You don't even have time to look at ChatGPT or AIs. I mean, you barely have time to eat and sleep, right? I think when you look at this reality, I don't think you can look at it and say, this is inherently progress. This is inherently advancement. Because, again, going back to what actually makes us happy and fulfilled as humans, it isn't like improving that part of the equation. It's not. It's just not. And I think it makes sense. So I think what we can look at next is, like, what is technological improvements? What is this new AI actually going to do? What effect is it actually going to have on society? To take a look at the effect that technology is going, technological change is going to have on society, we have to talk more about the system in which we live in, and that is capitalism. Capitalism dictates basically everything about our lives. So we have to start there. Like, when we're breaking things down and trying to get to the root of things, we just have to do it. And so what is, capitalism? What is it? And how, in a sense that is related to what we're talking about? Well, it is the accumulation of capital. It's in the name. If you control capital, you control the means of production. You control profits, and by control, that might mean you're an investor in a mutual fund. That might mean you're the boss. That might mean many different things. But if you are the one that has control over that capital and where that capital gets allocated, whether that capital is money or labor people that work for you or whatever it happens to be, if you are in control of that capital, what is your goal in a capitalist society? How do you, what are you incentivized to do? Well, I'll give you an example. I look at the advancement of, as people might say, of AI, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm a programmer. I love programming. I really do. And I look at this and I'm like, okay, so what if I just don't learn how to use AIs? What if I'm like, hey, I love programming as it is. It's great. I enjoy it. Why? I don't feel any particular need to learn this AI, right? Let's say I don't learn this AI, but let's say the AI technology improves programmer productivity by some factor. 1, 2, 10, whatever the factor is. I guess if it improves it by a factor of 1, that's not really much different. But let's say it has some significant improvement on our productivity as a programmer. And I don't learn this new technology. And a few years down the road, I'm like, oh yeah, I love doing the podcast and all, but I'd love to get a job, writing code for someone. Or more likely, oh, hey, I ran out of money. I need some money. I'm going to go get a job. And so I start applying and people look at me and they're like, wow, you are like a really slow, ancient programmer. Like, we don't want you. And that's because I didn't learn this new technology. And so I am no longer competitive with other programmers. I mean, I don't know if this is what's going to happen with AI, but it could, right? If AI makes programmers way more productive and you don't use that new technology, you're kind of getting left behind. You might not be able to get a job as a programmer anymore. So I think you can look at this though and apply it in general to businesses and capital. So running a business, you're seeing AI and you're like maybe you're not Microsoft or Google. You're not the ones creating the AI, but you see it and you're like, oh, okay. If my competitor or a new competitor that, springs up because of the invention of AI uses it and it allows them to do what I'm doing for cheaper, then they can sell their product for cheaper, their service for cheaper, and I will no longer be competitive and I will go out of business. I will no longer exist as a business. This is the reality. This is how capitalism works. So as a business, what you have to do if you want to continue to exist as a business, you either have to stamp out all the competition, make it so nobody can use this new technology. That's an option. If you have a monopoly and you're like, no, I don't feel like adopting this new technology. I'm just going to pass laws that make it illegal for people to, I'm going to lobby people, make it impossible to use this new technology, or I'm going to buy up anyone that tries to use it. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could go about not using the new technology if you're in control of all the capital. But let's say you're not. Let's say you have a few competitors. You have no other option other than to adopt this new technology. It's just, if you don't, your business is going to go out of business. And if you want to remain in business and keep getting a paycheck and keep eating food, what do? You have to play this game. This is the system. This is how the system works. So we can take this now and go back and start analyzing our actual, the current situation with AI. So we have, we have on the one side, we have humans and what us as humans need, what we want, what makes us happy and satisfied and fulfilled, right? And we can all, I think at this point, agree just a technology doesn't long-term make anyone happy. I love programming, right? I absolutely love programming. But if it was a vacuum and I was the only person that existed in it, I was the only person that existed in the world, and you gave me a computer and you're like, hey, I guess you wouldn't because I'm the only person. Somehow I make a computer, right? And I can program things. If I'm just programming for myself, that's fun for a while, but The real joy in building things and making things is the impact it can have on other people. I love to build programs because I love to be like, oh, wow, look, this person enjoys using my program. They get some sort of benefit from it, right? That's sort of on a micro level. That's why I love it. It's the connection to other humans. But you take away that connection and the technology, it might be interesting for a little bit because it's fun to learn new things, right? But I mean, I don't like, if it's just me in a computer on an island or whatever for 30 years, like I'm not going to just program every day for myself. That's just not, I don't think anybody would. So I think we can agree that technology by itself is not what makes life worth living for humans. It's just not. It is not that important. And then we can look at the capitalist system side of things. So the whole drive in capitalism is to accumulate capital and monopolize industries because that's the way you accumulate the most capital, the most profit. Now let's take a look at the AI lever. The AI technology, maybe this, allows your business to do more with less capital. Maybe it's a huge lever that allows your business to do way more with less capital. And you have then companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, whoever is making these AIs, right? They're looking at this and they're going, wow, if we control this technology, if we monopolize this technology, or even just get a large slice of it, we are going to be fabulously wealthy. And is there any other, there's nothing else in capitalism that's like, okay, yes, that's true, but you need to be careful because if you do something harmful to humans, or you don't make humans' lives better, or you exploit people, or you exploit the planet, or you pollute the planet, or whatever it might be, if there are side effects to this new technology, you're going to pay the consequences. That's not how it works. Like Google, if they're creating a new AI, the way that it works is if they succeed and people love using their product or at least feel like they have to use their product. Maybe they don't love using it, but they're like, I have to use it to remain competitive, and they pay Google money and Google makes money from it. Google doesn't care what the side effects are. If there are major side effects, oh no, a bank collapses. What's going to happen? The government's going to bail them out. Oh, we're destroying the planet because we use so much energy and it causes climate change. Oh, wait, Google's not responsible, or the oil companies aren't responsible for all the nasty side effects they've caused. No. Us as individuals and, as the government, we're the ones that end up holding that bill, right? So just the nature of the systems we are in, what does it do? It encourages the people with capital, the businesses, or people that want capital, startups, to focus solely on capturing market share without worrying about the side effects. Like all that matters is capturing market share. You look at a great example would be OpenAI lets us use ChatGPT for free, even though they've said it's very expensive to create their models and all the research they did and run all the software, the services. They let us use it for free. Why? So they can capture market share. That's maybe so they can also do more research or whatever, do research on us. We're the guinea pigs, right? There's other things too, but their ultimate goal is capture the market share. They want to be the one that provides AI to everyone. And yes, there might be people there that are like, oh, we need to do this ethically or whatever. But when push comes to shove, that is not as important as being the first to market, capturing that market, capturing that capital, being the monopoly over AI. That is the driving underlying force. There's no driving underlying force that's like, okay, how do we use this technology to actually make human life better? That's just not a part of this system. So let's go back again and take a look at things from the ideal perspective. So in what I think would be, and I think a lot of people would agree, an ideal way to introduce new technology would be to look at like how this new technology is actually going to make people happier and more fulfilled, more satisfied, all those other things, right? So let's say we have AI, the way that I think ideally as a society we introduce it is, all right, like before we just open it up and let everyone start using it, like let's take a look at the impact it could have and, you know, make decisions. Oh, is the potential impact actually going to make things better? What changes could it have? What can we do to mitigate any potential side effects? Any potential negative externalities? That would be, I think, what most people would say is an ideal way to approach any new technology. Because it's not necessarily like we established earlier, it's not inherently better. New technology does not inherently make us happier humans, make our lives better. So given that premise, it only makes sense that in an ideal world, we look at, okay, like before we actually do this, let's do it right. Right? You know, let's actually figure out how to do this right so it actually makes things better. That's the ideal scenario, right? That's absolutely not how new technology plays out. That's not how AI is playing out. As we all know, or maybe you don't if you're not paying attention, which is fine. But the way it's playing out is it's a land grab. Everyone is like, oh, I need to get as much AI market share as I can, as quickly as I can. And I'm going to say things like, we care about ethics. We're going to do a little bit of work to make sure our AI doesn't say something that gets us a lot of bad press, right? But there's not let's take a step back before we release this and actually make sure it makes people's lives better. Instead, let's just go along with this narrative that technology inherently makes our lives better. It's just progress. It's advancement. That is profitable for us. So let's go along with that. So if you hear that, you know, if you even think that, if you think, oh, technology is progress, if you equate those things, I would challenge you to take a look at where that narrative is coming from. Because I suspect it's coming from the people that are going to profit from those technologies. They love that argument, regardless of whether it's true or not, because with that argument, they don't need to deal with potential negative side effects because people will just go, they'll defend them. They'll go, yeah, you know, there might be some negative things, but we'll figure it out. You know, it's just important to make progress. Making progress is the ultimate goal. Again, like, I don't cares about whatever you call as progress. That's not progress. What matters is making our lives better as humans. Like, I don't give a about AI if it doesn't make our lives better. That's what it comes down to. But that's not how any logical company is going to behave, because that's not the system we exist in. So yes, I am exploring AI. I'm exploring this new technology. And my, goal in this podcast is to educate and help people learn how to effectively use technology, whether that's React, software programming, or AIs, whatever that happens to be. I take it on myself to come to all of you and be like, I want to give you the best possible education and information I can so that you can effectively utilize these technologies. But at the same time, I don't see it as, inherent progress. And I can't, I feel like I can't necessarily make this episode on how to effectively use AI to be a more efficient programmer without just coming out and saying, I don't necessarily think that the way in which this is happening, the order in which things are happening, the speed in which things are happening, the way in which things are happening when it comes to AI and the development of AI is inherently good or inherently progress. That's just not how I feel. And so it needs to be said, because I think if it's not said, it's easy to imagine that just because it makes you a more efficient React programmer. It's easy to be like, oh, this is making programming better. This allows us to create more programs faster, and just think in your head, oh, this is better. But I'm just going to come out right now and say, maybe not. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it's not inherent. It's not a given. It's not like just a guaranteed progress or advancement. So then you might ask, well, why would you make that educational material anyways? Well, that's the other side of the equation. You're not hearing me be like, talking, this podcast isn't about like, oh, how do we have a different society than capitalism or whatever? That's just not what this is. This, to me, is we exist within a capitalist system. We exist within a lot of different systems. And especially as, people not at the top, not the people controlling the capital, we have to exist in these systems. We have to earn a living. We have to like you got to pay for that washing machine, right? Going way back. Before the washing machine, you just needed, I guess, some water and some soap maybe, and a few other basic things. You didn't need energy. You didn't need to buy a new washing machine every 10 years or whatever it might be. You didn't need to repair the washing machine. But now that you have a washing machine, you're not like just using that time to go, read a newspaper. No, you have to get a job so you can earn money, so you can pay for that washing machine, pay for the energy the washing machine needs. So it's just not, it didn't really make our lives better. And I look at this maybe in an extreme way, but I go way back. I'm like, did agriculture even make our lives better in a sense of making us happy and more fulfilled? Maybe before agriculture, people had more fulfilled lives, happier lives. I'm not right now saying I know that for sure or anything. I'm just saying there's nothing that prevents us from imagining that maybe that's possible. And just being like, we shouldn't just take new technological changes and assume they are either better now or they will eventually make the world better. Because I think what we've seen over and over and over again is that that's just not true. Like if technology really was our savior, if it really was progress, why, if we've made such monumental technological improvements over the last, 10,000 years, right? Quote, improvements, right? Like why is a job still 40 hours a week? Like all these accumulated technical improvements, you would think that at this point we should all be working like 2 minutes a week. And the rest of our time is our free time to live a happy, autonomous life, doing what we want to do. That's not what's happened. So I guess, the main point of all this is, yes, I am going to, work to bring you all the best information on how to use whatever technologies are available effectively. But that doesn't mean that these technologies are progress. That doesn't mean they're inherently good, doesn't mean they're inherently better. It just means we exist in this system. We need to do what the system requires. And if you're a programmer, that means programming. So let's do the best we can at that, right? That's what this is really all about, to me at least. I want to provide people with the best resources, the best tools to do the best they can at what they need to do within society. And, maybe you just program for fun, and that's awesome. That's the best. And in that case, just you don't need to listen to the episode on how to use AI unless you want to, because nobody cares. Like, if you're just doing it for fun, who cares whether you use some new technology? Who cares what programming language you use? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Do what you want to do, what makes you happy, what makes you feel fulfilled. And, this touches on another huge aspect of new technological changes. What if I don't want to learn how to use AI? What if as people age, it gets harder to learn new things. What if I'm like, I really love programming the way I already do it, and I'm just not interested in this new thing? I mean, if this is your job, you don't really have a choice, potentially. Like, you might not have a choice. If you want to keep your job, you might have to learn how to use this new technology. That is taking autonomy away. And I think from us, and I think that makes us less happy. It's like, it's like this sort of grumpy thing, like, oh, I got to learn this because otherwise I'm going to be left behind. And so technological change, and you hear, this is a big part of the topic around AI, is like, which jobs are going to be replaced? Like, I don't know. To me, it's absurd. It's like, why do we want that? Like, why as a society is that a thing? Why aren't we like, oh, okay, AI could replace these jobs, but the amount of money that businesses make shouldn't change, right? So maybe if your job gets replaced by AI, you just get free income. Like, that income was going to, that profits, that revenue is going to the company regardless of whether you are doing the labor or the AI is doing the labor. So as a society, why are we not like, oh, okay, if technology replaces a job, well, then that revenue should go to the person that no longer has to do that job. Because, what would that do? That would free up that person to, do whatever they actually want to do. And if you took that approach to society where every technological change just freed us up to do what we wanted to do, that would potentially actually be progress. But if your technological change just means somebody no longer gets a paycheck and they can no longer buy food or they must re-educate themselves, well, that sucks. Like, why would we want to exist in a society where that's the way things are? Anyways, we could go way down that path, but the main point is just like, again, it's not inherently progress. It does not necessarily make things better. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But the systems we exist in, they're not incentivized to figure out answers to these questions before deploying the technology. They're just not. That's not the way things work. The world that we are going forward into with AI is one where we haven't answered any of these questions about its impact on society or us as humans. We're just going to deploy it anyway. We're going to use it anyways. It's, and it's not something you can really stop either. Like, the government can't come out and say, oh, you can't use AI. Like, we need to pause AI before, start deploying it. I mean, you could try to do that, but the reality is this technology that we live under capitalism. So if somebody can use the technology secretly or whatever, or go to a different country that doesn't have as much control over what people do and use this technology, they're going to accumulate more capital and more profits. And it's just, there's this system, the capitalist system, is going to do what it's going to do. And we can't, there's nothing we can do about that if we're existing within this system. That's just the way it is. So yeah, the world we're going forward into, with all other technological change, is one where change is going to happen and it's going to be painful. People are going to lose their jobs. Or they're going to have to re-educate themselves when maybe they don't want to. And there might be a lot of other negative side effects, but we are not going to have the opportunity to look at those first before we deploy the technology. So, yes, I am going to make educational resources on how to use the technology. But I implore you, if you're the one using the technology, think about its impact. Think about, how it impacts society, how it impacts you, how it impacts the people around you. And I don't know if there's much we can do about it. You need to earn a paycheck. It's just the way it is. There's only so much you can do as an individual. But at least we can come at this from a perspective of, we're using this technology, but we're also acknowledging it's just technology. It's not necessarily better. It might make the world worse. It might. But at least we can acknowledge that. That's where we have to start with. We have to start with acknowledging reality and acknowledging the truth. If we do that, we can move forward into making decisions on how to use that technology, what to do with that technology. But we have to start there. We have to start with what it is we're actually dealing with and the potential effects of it. Well, I've said a lot. I have no idea if it's interesting or I repeated myself too many times, but something I personally needed to say before we get into actually using the new AI technology. But I absolutely want to hear from all of you. How do you feel about it? On the one hand, I'm like, oh, this is exciting. Working with ChatGPT, it's been really interesting. It's like, wow, this is really impressive. How does it do this? It's fun. I'm enjoying learning about it and learning how to use it and learning what it's capable of. So that makes me happy and fulfilled going back to all this, right? That's reality too. So yeah, I'd love to hear, from all of you out there, what do you think about it? Are you excited for it? Have you looked into it? What do you feel like? Or are you like, oh, I am dreading having to learn this new thing? Or in one of the feelings I've had is, I don't know if I enjoy this as much as programming without the AI. It's another one of those things where it's like, I can see how maybe it's making me more able to make programs quicker, but am I enjoying the act of programming as much as I used to? I think that's still somewhat of an open question for me, but I would love to hear from you. If you've tried it, how do you feel about it? And just how do you feel about the whole situation as a whole? How do you feel about having to exist within this system that forces you to adopt new technologies, whether you want to or not? Anyways, I'd really love to hear from you. Definitely, if you want, write into the show. You can find the contact form on the website. You can leave a comment on whatever platform you listen to. I love hearing from people. It's what makes this podcast and this community what it is. I guess that's the central thesis of this entire episode, right? It's about people and it's about the relationships. So I would love to hear from you. I will always do my best to respond in whichever way I can and even have a conversation. You the people listening are what makes this whole thing worth doing. And so, yeah, I'd absolutely love to hear from you. I hear from listeners all the time, and it always makes my day, even if it's just hey, I enjoy this, or I didn't enjoy this, or I didn't like this, or I don't agree with you, or I agree with you, or how do I do this? Whatever it is, it's fine. I love to have that connection and make that connection with people. And yeah, like always, thank you so much for joining the show today. And I hope you have a good rest of your day or week or whatever it might be. And yeah, take care. Bye.